Give me an idea of what, from your perspective, what does it take? What does it take to secure the endpoints that you have? Or and I use the word endpoints just because I just think of, I was taught by someone else, like data is just nothing but endpoints. You're protecting data from A to B. That's when it matters the most. You kind of hinted at it. You have platform, which people are building applications on all the time, some of which you have no clue what they're arguably might have no clue what they're building, right? There's third-party integrations, there's API pulls, you mentioned M&A activity within the company. What does it mean when you say you're looking for scalability? Because there's got to be a root security that says this has to be true. And then when you say scalability, how do you know you got it? Or what are you looking for? If you could describe that to our audience who's maybe they're just starting to break down. I'm sure some of our audience is overseeing and are trying to protect systems that are, maybe they're starting to develop some cracks.
You're right. Mostly about one thing so far, which is the data comes from the endpoints. If you understand the data from a lot of endpoints, you end up understanding a lot of behavior. But the analysis of all the data needs to be done in a central spot. That's actually sort of the value that we get from the partnership with CrowdStrike in this case. It's actually not one thing, but it's multiple things. So being able to install CrowdStrike on more different types of endpoints, we have a lot of heterogeneous things, and being able to accumulate the data in certain places and be able to say, here, we see that there is kind of thing happening, hundreds of thousands of endpoints. It's a real task.
Your duty is not only to develop the engineering that's going to do that, but also to simplify and understand that. That's one of the things that is constantly we hear from different tech leaders that plays the security industry, which is the ability to identify signal from noise. Because Tyler said you're overseeing in a central location hundreds of thousands of endpoints. How do you go about building an application that then says okay, but I can't give too many false positives? Because if my main man Tyler gets 100,000 false positives, he's going to freak out.
No, I'm not going to freak out. I will ignore them, actually. I will not freak out at all.
And that's actually a really bad thing, because it's not exactly what Tara just said is the problem, right? If you've got so much noise in your system, if you've got so many false positives, the result is people start ignoring things. At some point, you ignore the one alert that you actually needed to focus on. It's a very real problem in cyber. I want to come back to a point that Taho made, which I think is absolutely fantastic. A lot of people say to us, when are you coming out with a firewall? When are you coming out with a network? Pick a product. Or when are you doing email? When are you doing web security? And my answer always is never. Obviously, always caveat that, you never know, but there is no plan. I have no plan. The company has no plan to get into network, for example. And the reason for it is focus. An adversary, an attacker is there not to steal your network. Their focus is to get to the data and to get to the user. They're the two things that are important to an adversary. Everything else is a distraction in many ways. So how do we help? Taho, how do we help organizations like Salesforce and others? It's being focused at what we do. It's making sure that we're not distracted by having a telephone book thickness of product SKUs that we can sell. It doesn't matter who you talk to in an enterprise, you've got something to sell. That's a reason why, if you go back in our industry, a lot of the names that you would have been speaking to on a podcast 10 years ago don't exist. And a big part of that is just a lack of focus, trying to do everything to everyone. So, use modern techniques to deal with modern attack tradecraft. Everyone talks about AI. I mean, we really focus on building ML models that can help detect an attack very, very quickly and easily. My team is paid on efficacy. They're paid on making sure false positives don't exceed a certain threshold. It's easy to build an ML model that detects everything as bad. And unfortunately, it also detects everything good as bad. And that's important. You got to manage those thresholds very, very carefully.
This episode of IT Visionaries is brought to you by Salesforce. With Salesforce's low-code app dev tools, you can be more efficient, more productive, and save money by reducing development time by up to 90%. Get Salesforce's low-code playbook and increase time to value for your team and your customers. Visit salesforce.com/ITV today.